relying too heavily on them, but one, this is called a Short Meditations on the Bible and Peanuts by Robert Short, and the other is The Gospel According to Peanuts. And this is one of my favorites. Yeah, you've read this one? Yeah, it's such a great book, and it's got he spends some time talking about history and theology of art, and it's more interesting than I just made it sound. But in particular, as he talks about faith and art, he says that we sometimes try to split the two. And we've talked about this over the years. In Calvinist and Presbyterian churches in particular, we're not always sure what to do with art. But he says that a faith that has no art is no faith at all, but only a small hole, large enough at best, for the head of a human ostrich. Isn't that a great image? A faith that can find no significant meaning in art and laughter, in the tragic as well as in the hilariously comic, is a faith that will find no joy in life itself. I think there's something to that. But as he talks about art and he talks about faith, he spends some time talking about how to interpret art. He says you can't interpret art with science or with math. It's a different process. And he says sometimes we get lost in trying to figure out what the artist intended. He said that's nice, but the artist's intent should not limit your interpretation. And he compares art to speaking in tongues. It says, speaking in tongues, you always need someone to interpret because the person who speaks in tongues can't interpret themselves. So an artist needs an interpreter. And he views himself and his work on some level as the interpreter of the Peanuts. But we're going to do a little bit of interpretation on our own this evening, and we're going to let the Peanuts speak for themselves some. Because if you spend a lot of time with Charlie Brown and the gang, it's overwhelming how much depth there is to these little comics. And especially because they sometimes come in 1 or 3 or 4 panels. You don't realize what it's like. It's sort of like getting a drop of rain on your head and thinking, I'm not that wet. But it's not the one drop you have to worry about. It's the 5,000 others that are right behind it. And the more time you spend with the Peanuts, the more you start to see the shape of what Charles Schulz is actually doing. And sometimes he's quite explicit. So we're going to explicit and overt, not explicit and adult. We're doing just cartoons here. But we're going to spend some time. We're going to let him tell us a little bit of his own theology. But let's start with the Peanuts themselves. Charlie Brown, sitting on a bench, proclaims, rats. What could be worse than the long walk home after losing the first game of the season? Right? He's hanging his head in that wonderfully Charlie Brown posture. And then he lifts his head to the sky right before the rain. Poor Charlie Brown. And this image, right, it can't possibly get any worse, and then it does. But Charlie Brown in the rain, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And so, you just saw Charlie Brown in the rain. Remember how awful rainy days were when you were a kid and wanted to go out to play? Take just a few moments and share with the people around you your memories of rainy days from childhood. All right, let's come back together. So walking around, I heard some different approaches to rainy day memories. So just quickly, how many of you liked rainy days as a kid? Yeah, a couple more of us. Okay. How many of you dreaded rainy days? Okay, more of us liked the rain. What a strange group we are. So what are some of your memories of rainy days as a kid? Being stuck in the house. Yeah. Ooh, going to the library. Okay. Get you out of the house. Aaron. Mm. Experiencing the rain from a dry place. Yeah. Yeah. Swimming in the rain is pretty fun. Sure. What other memories? What's that? Bathing suits in the rain. And just at some point you just abandon and get wet. Right? And stomp in the puddles. All right, what other memories? Yeah. Reading on the back porch undercover. Yeah, and you get this sound of the rain. Sarah? Relaxing by the computer, hearing the rain outside. Yeah. Other memories of rainy days? Gretchen? Playing Monopoly, right? Inside, making the best of it, but playing a board game inside. All right. Lisa? Oh. As the water runs down from the gutters after the rain. Sure. Other memories? Yeah, Doug.
My dad would, he always said the fish would bite better in the rain. So if it wasn't pouring down rain, we'd go fishing.
Go fishing in the rain.
About the same number of fish it was raining.
Didn't help your average. Oh, that's great. All right, so and so I mean, let's just for a second. Let's go back to the image. I mean, there's something almost universal about this picture. All right, whether or not you played baseball, or we all have memories of being in the rain. They're not all bad memories, but we remember what it's like to be a kid in the rain. And there's something really almost deceptively powerful about it. Deceptive in that you don't realize how powerful Charles Schultz is here, of stripping away all of your concerns about the economy and the government and politics and employment, and bringing back memories of childhood from a picture, right? I mean, just this image. And he kind of strips away all of the junk that doesn't really matter and restores us to the state of childhood. So let's look a little bit at rain. Here's Lucy. Why does it always rain when I want to do something? And again, the pictures are so wonderful. Lucy's here in the foreground with the nice grimace on her face. She's huge. And back here is little Linus. Linus steps forward. Actually, it doesn't really. It only seems that it does because you're upset right now and you've forgotten about the many sunny days we've had when... Why does it always rain when I want to do something? And look at the look on his face and his hair standing up on end. And Linus responds, "You're a very unlucky person." This wonderful banter between Linus and Lucy, and what a great illustration of their relationship between the two of them, right? But here's Linus and Lucy's memory of what it's like on a rainy day and the disappointment Lucy faces. And some of us talked about being stuck inside, even if you're enjoying the sound of the rain, but looking outside and wishing you could go do something else. So what is the grown-up equivalent to a rainy day? Right, it's something that right away kind of ruin your day. Maybe not the end of the world, but just puts you in a bad mood. What is the grown-up equivalent of a rainy day? Talk to the people around you. right, so I want to hear, what is the grown-up equivalent to a rainy day for a kid? Yeah, rainy day for a kid. What's the equivalent as a grown-up? Comcast. Very nice. What else? What are the other things that just instantly put you in a bad mood?
Derek, when we lived in Florida, Kristen and I were on the highway on our way home, and a gentleman, big man in front of me in a car, was swerving and pulled off the road. And I went over to see if he was okay. He was slumped over. He was having a heart attack.
Oh.
And I was doing compressions on him, saved his life. He sued me.
Oh my gosh. So
The magistrate said, "Get out of my courtroom. She saved your life."
So, a man in front, you're driving, a man in front of you had a heart attack. You get out of the car, you do compressions, you save his life, and he takes you to court. That is a bad day.
I was sorry I did.
What else? What are the other things that, the equivalents of a rainy day? When things break down. The car breaks down. Yeah, the things that you depend on. Or when the dishwasher breaks down. Yeah, the things you're counting on to work. Or what else? What are the other things that are like rainy days?
When you get up in the morning and your car's outside covered in snow.
Oh, the car covered in snow. And it always happens when you've only got 2 minutes before you need to leave, right? Always when you're running late. Right. Oh, you're driving to work and your car doesn't make it up the road? Car dies on McKnight. Yes, that would ruin your day. Oh, when the kids get the stomach bug, yes. Yeah, the stomach bug will ruin your day. Yeah, all right, lots of things that are the equivalent of a rainy day for us. All right, so let's keep going through with the peanuts here. So we've looked at some rainy days. What if you could wish it away, at least just for a little while? Right, if you could convince, you could get down on your knees and sweet talk the dishwasher into running for a little bit longer. Right? What if you could ask the rainy day to just delay itself? Rain, rain, go away, come again some other day. Look at Lucy's posture here. Isn't this fabulous? Right? Arms spread wide, head tilted back to the heavens, mouth wide open in this prayer for the rain to go away. And then it does. Good grief, what have I done? And Lucy runs away screaming, remember what exactly her request was. Go away, come again some other day. She has wished away the rain, knowing it's going to come back. If you could delay your dishwasher breaking down or get the car another couple blocks, it's still going to break. All you've done is delay the inevitable. So, all right, we're going to switch from rain, and we're going to start looking at some storms. And we're going to spend some time in the storms. We move pretty quickly through these others. All right, so we talked about some things that just kind of put you in a bad mood. What are not the rains that annoy you, but the serious storms, the things that keep you awake at night, or that ruin more than your day, the things that are a little more serious? Take a few minutes and talk with the people around you. right, I got to pick up the pace if we're going to get done here. All right, so I'm not going to ask you to share that, but I'm going to reflect back to you some of the things that I heard as I walked around the room. Phrases and words and concepts I heard. Aging parents, a bad doctor's appointment, financial instability, politics, broken relationships, grades, the economy. This is more than a broken dishwasher. All right, sometimes there are little rains, and sometimes in life there are storms. And luckily, we're not alone in the storms. The peanuts are going to be there with us. So let's look at some storms for the peanuts. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, a very famous storm. To which Sally says, unbelievable. And Snoopy thinks, who went out in the backyard and got the dog dish? What a great moment as they reflect on the storm. We could unpack this comic for quite some time, but we're going to keep moving. So in some of the storms, we just make the best of it. Right? Some of the storms, there's not much we can do. We just do our best, and we try to find a silver lining or make lemonade. We see that here with Snoopy, who's eating from his dog bowl when the rain comes down. Right on his food, right in the bowl. Snoopy looks in the dog, and look, right, the hesitation, right? Isn't this great? And says, it's stew now. Right? He's not making lemonade. He's just going to call it stew and make the best of it. But look at his face. He's not happy about it, but it is what it is, right? What's that? He's resigned, right? It is stew now. This is now what I have. Sometimes when the storms come, there's just not much you can do, but try to find something encouraging in it. Some storms, you can't make the best of it. You just endure. We see them out at the baseball field. This is an older one. Lucy says, I think we'd better quit. And again, Snoopy looking up at the sky. Is that Linus is the catcher? Says, I do too. And Charlie Brown, it's going to clear up. You're out of your mind, Charlie Brown. I think it's going to clear up. We're going home. But it's going to clear up. The little girl running away with a newspaper over her head. It's going to clear up. 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 And there is Charlie Brown standing alone. It's not going to clear up. And in fact, even if the rain stops, it's too late. They cannot play baseball. He's standing in a river. There are some storms that they just leave you drenched. And you can hope that they're going to clear up. You can try to make the best of it. But we have had this experience where sometimes the storms come and you just end up standing in a puddle up to your ankles, drenched. Some storms we can't endure. Snoopy sitting in the rain. Look at his eyes. Schultz gets so much out of just a few lines, right? This look of determination on Snoopy's face. I'm stubborn. It can rain and rain and rain, but I'm just going to sit here because I'm stubborn. Ooh, it's raining harder. And Snoopy says, I'm very stubborn. But I'm not stupid. And he finally turns tail and decides to get in out of the storm. There are some storms in life we can't handle, right? We throw up our arms and we give up. Some storms we can't give up. Some storms we have to endure. Some storms we do have the option of surrendering. And in this moment, Snoopy gives up. We could stop for 3 minutes after each of these. You may have moments in your life that you had to endure the storm. You may have had moments in your life where you had to surrender to the storm. But some storms we can't endure. Some storms need a little help. Let's go back to Charlie Brown on that pitcher's mound. But look who's in the corner. Linus, and he's carrying a board. putting up a wall, and he's got a saw out. Isn't that fabulous? Charlie Brown says, "Thank you." Linus says, "You're welcome," and he walks away. Sometimes we just need help in the storm. And notice Charlie Brown couldn't do much for himself. Right? If you really wanted to dive into this cartoon, Charlie Brown doesn't have the rain gear. He doesn't have the saw. He doesn't have the hammer. He doesn't have the wood. Somebody has to come from outside of the pitcher's mound to bring help into him. And there are moments when the storm gets so bad, you need help from outside. Right? You need somebody else to come and build you a shelter. And notice, Linus isn't staying. Right? He's got somewhere to go. Right? But for that moment, Linus comes and he gives Charlie Brown this help that he so desperately needs. Some storms, when we face, we just need help. And some don't need help, they just need company. Charlie Brown sticks his head out the front door and feels the rain on his hand. Goes back inside, gets a bowl of dog food. We see the can opener. Grabs an umbrella, walks the dog dish out, stands with Snoopy in the rain. And he holds the umbrella over Snoopy. And notice here, Charlie Brown, he doesn't build a shelter. He doesn't go away and get back out of the rain. He just stands in the rain with Snoopy. There are those storms in life where you just want to know you're not alone. Those moments where you just need somebody in the rain with you. And these last two comics, I think, what great images of the church. When the storms of life come, you're not alone. Right? And there are people in the church who will bring you soup or send you a card or give you a call or remind you that you're not alone. And sometimes there are people who will just come and sit with you and cry with you or complain with you or just listen to you do that. There are moments you just want company. And when we look, if you wanted to, again, we could spend a long time on this comic itself, but if you think about the story of Job, when Job's life falls apart, his friends come and they sit with him. And then they open their mouths and they say the dumbest possible things. But they show up. And there's something really beautiful about that. Misery does love company. Right? And not so much we want other people to be miserable, but sometimes we just don't want to be alone. And we see that here. What a beautiful picture of the church. Charlie Brown standing in the rain with Snoopy. So when you have storms in life, who has been your company? Or who has been your help? I know, of course, it's Jesus. We'll say that now. But in addition to Jesus, when you find that you are in a storm and you just need someone to be with you, who's been in the storm with you? 3 minutes. One more minute. All right, let's come back together. So I hope many of us were able to identify someone who has been with us in the storms. Maybe someone from this church. Oh, the clock is just so mean. All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get through still. All right, so we've got company in the storms, but we've talked about the rain. We've talked about the storms, and that kind of leads us then to the question: why the storms? I mean, this is one of the deep questions we ask as Christians. Why do these bad things happen? And I think that Schultz is actually trying to tackle this deepest of questions through the peanuts. And not maybe give you an answer, but change your question. Schultz loves Matthew 5, and I'm going to prove it. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. Sometimes it rains on the just. I believe that Charles Schultz had this in mind when he wrote these comics about rain. Why do I think that? It's not a coincidence. Linus says to Snoopy, so you're getting a little wet. Don't look so depressed. Remember, it rains on the just and the unjust. And Snoopy wonders, but why us in-betweens? It was 1970. The rain falls on the hills and the valleys. It rains on the cities and the fields. It rains on the just and the unjust. And in my face. Again, we find Schultz quoting Matthew 5 in 1978. You see Peppermint Patty running through a storm. Yes, ma'am, I have the verse right here. He sendeth rain on the just and the unjust, and all of us in between. 1984. It's not raining hard, Charlie Brown says from the pitcher's mound. Remember, the rain falls on the just and the unjust, and anyone playing right field. 1998. Charlie Brown and Linus go out for a walk. Linus, if you didn't realize this, Linus is the unofficial theologian of the gang. Charlie Brown and Linus go out for a walk. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. Linus thinks about this. That's a good system. Now, so all right, we've seen, he is directly quoting not just scripture, but the words of Jesus in these comics about rain. He's got this passage from Matthew 5 in mind when he draws these comics about rain. Schultz is saying something more than sometimes it gets wet outside. The rain is more than the rain. And in this particular comic, Linus decides that's a good system. No, it's not. That's horrible. I want I want it to rain on the unjust when they want to go out to play, and I want it to be sunny on the just, right? I mean, that's how we want things to go. And yet Linus looks at this and decides it's a good system. A good system. How could this possibly be a good system? Well, Schultz is going to answer that for us. Charlie Brown on the pitcher's mound as Lucy comes to him and asks, can thinking bad thoughts cause it to rain? Linus took the last donut this morning, and I yelled at him, and now it's clouding up. So I was just wondering, all right, so what is Lucy thinking? It's Linus's fault. He took the last donut. Now I'm thinking bad things, and that means it's going to rain. Lucy believes that she is responsible for the rain. Right, so she's making this theological claim. My sin is causing these bad things to happen, right? All right, Charlie Brown's going to respond. If bad thoughts caused rain, we'd never see the sunshine. Isn't that fabulous? So what are the assumptions behind Charlie Brown's response? We have a lot of bad thoughts. Right? So on the one hand, Charlie Brown is saying we have a lot of bad thoughts. In fact, if our bad thoughts caused the rain, it would only ever rain. But notice, he very quickly moves from rain to sunshine. Lucy says, let's play ball. But let's go back to Matthew. A lot of this is about the question we ask. We so often ask about the rain, but what about the sun? The peanuts are inviting us to stop asking why it rains and to start being thankful when it's sunny. So why does it rain sometimes? Thank God the sun shines. It's a completely different view of this question of suffering. It's not to deny suffering or to abandon suffering or to explain suffering away or to come up with a scientific equation that'll explain how it happens or comes about. Instead, it's gratitude for God's goodness. And let's go back to that rain. What if sometimes the storms weren't entirely curse? Rats. We lost again. And now it's starting to rain. Where were you in the fourth inning? If the rain had come a little sooner, it might not have felt like a curse. Schultz spends a little more time on this. Again, rats. All week long I've looked forward to this game, and now it's starting to rain. Actually, the rain is good for the carrots, Charlie Brown, and it's good for the beans and barley and the oats and the alfalfa. Or is it bad for the alfalfa? I think it's good for the spinach and bad for the apples. It's good for the beets and for the oranges. It's bad for the grapes, but good for the barbers, but bad for the carpenters, but good for the county officials, but bad for the car dealers, and then Charlie Brown walks away with a sigh. But there's something a lot deeper in this cartoon. Is the rain a curse? Not always. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether it's a curse, and sometimes it feels like a curse at the moment. But sometimes it's not as straightforward as it appears. And look who's thinking about it. All right. We did it right on time, 7:30. All right, so, and just to step back, right? All we really did is we looked at the theme of rain in the Peanuts. We could have done the entire series on the Peanuts. the hardest part about the peanuts was not finding what to do, it was trimming it down. The more you look at the peanuts, the more you start to see, oh, there is a lot here. But week 1, we spent time with Superman. We looked at the comparisons to Moses. We then did Seuss and looked at several of his stories, kind of his parables. Today we did Peanuts. Next week, we're going to talk about someone that you know, but you maybe don't know that you know. You'll have to come find out next week. All right. Thank you very much.